Some of the current challenges today with disk space issues result from systems not being able to add sufficient information to the disk. So if you're filling up databases that ultimately rely on server storage, log files, or any number of things can lead to disk space being used up on a particular system. In order to either alleviate that through deleting stuff, which you may or may not want to do, also adding to it requires very manual actions that also require you to have high-level access. So you do need a very high-level access to be able to add to a particular existing disk on a virtual machine. You also need administrative access to that virtual machine to be able to go in and expand out a disk space. And you also have to have the technical knowledge in order to know which disk belongs to which particular virtual disk when it relates from a VM to a system. Today we're going to show you a demonstration of how Resolve can alleviate a lot of these issues. To demonstrate how Resolve can help speed up or alleviate disk space issues, we're going to take a look at a couple of demonstrations. The first that we're going to do is related to adding a new disk on a Windows server or desktop. By selecting Windows from my option list, I am presented with a number of options that I can do. I can add a new disk, or we'll see later where we can learn what expand is, and then we can actually carry out the extending of this particular disk. So now I'm prompted with an input where I can enter in the information about the server that I would like to have the disk added to, the amount of space, and then I can specify drive letter if it's available. When I submit this process via Resolve, it's going to carry out the automation that's associated to this process. Taking a look at this while it is executing, we are going to first gather all the disks that are currently on that particular virtual machine. We're going to create a new one. We're going to wait and make sure that it has been created, and then we're going to get the disks again in order to compare those two lists to determine what was the name of the one that it just added. Typically adds them as hard disk 1, 2, 3, 4 in sequence, but we want to make sure that we're getting the newest one that just got added. From there, we're going to gather information about that specific disk, and then we're going to go out to the Windows server, which would have already seen the new disk get added, and we're going to, based on the VM disk and its attachment, we're going to get the location and determine what that new disk is and verify that it is a raw disk. We then have the disk index information in order to initialize it. We're going to partition it, and then finally we are going to format the disk. So if I go back to my vSphere, I can see that I have executed out the configuration of it. Looking at the settings of that particular system, I can see that we have added a second hard disk of the 20 gigabit size that was specified. In the VM itself, here I can see that we have allocated disk E, but it is still in the process of being formatted. Going back into Resolve, I can see the results of all those steps that we had just looked at within the automation. Here's where we added the 20 gig. Again, we waited, we verified that it was there. We determined that hard disk 2 is the new one that got added. We verified its capacity. We also gathered its location information. We verified that location information with the disks on the actual Windows system itself. We found that the disk number is 1 and that it is formatted to raw. That enables us to then proceed to the initialization and the partitioning. Right now it is currently in the formatting stage, so I will pause the recording until this has completed. The real-time results have now refreshed, and we can see that the formatting has completed. It took a little under 3 minutes to complete based on when the execution time was, and we have completed the process. Going over to the virtual machine itself, we can now see that the disk has been formatted and it has approximately 20 gig of space available. Thank you again for watching our demonstration of how we can add a new disk and then format and make sure that the operating system can see it. Now that we have created the disk on the virtual machine, we're going to go through the process to be able to add more space to it. Again, I'm showing these executed manually, but they could be executed automatically via a trigger from another system, such as an event or a service request. And so in this case, I have two options. I can expand the virtual disk. So if I know the VM disk name, if I was familiar with VMware and looked it up and be able to specify the hard disk name, I could be able to do that. Or in this case, we're going to actually choose to extend. And that is going to enable me to specify that drive letter that we had created the disk on before. So now we're going to add 15 gig of additional storage to this. And again, I'm going to execute the automation. And so the automation that we're going to execute is to be able to extend it. We're going to get all the partitions and get the one in specific. That's going to allow us to take the drive letter and get the disk number. And then we're going to get information about that disk to get its location, which is going to then allow us to go into VMware and pick the correct disk. We can then do some simple math to determine what the current size is and what we're going to extend it to. We will extend it out within the VMware environment, and then we will ultimately extend the partition on the Windows server itself. And so here we can see that I have found the drive letter. There's the location, which allows us to then create a location string, which is going to allow us to find it within VMware. So we found that hard disk is hard disk 2, which we saw a little bit ago when we looked at the VM. We're going to now extend it to 35 gig. We have gathered the info, so we verified that we extended it. We then extended the partition, and so now when I go into that particular server, if I were to refresh this, we can see that it has gone from 20 to 35. And so now we have successfully gone into VMware, extended the disk, and then configured the disk on the server, but we also leveraged information from the server to determine which disk in VMware we needed to expand.